everyone. Today we're working with this worksheet. It says lab sheet measuring dry ingredients. And what we're going to do in this lab is explore what happens to amounts of flour depending on what type of strategy you use to measure your flour. We are going to go through all of these methods, basically all the ways that I've seen people measure flour, and we're going to find the one that's going to suit our class the best. There's one strategy that's like really, really good, but there's another one that's like medium, and we're going to use that. So what I'm going to use for this lab is a scale. And the reason I'm using this scale is because scales don't lie. We're going to be measuring flour today. And when I say a cup of flour, that could mean any number of things, because I can fit more flour or less flour in this cup depending on how I measure it. And so when I use a scale, nothing is questioned because it tells me exactly how many grams of flour I have. Many people use scales when they're baking because they find it more exact to use gram values or ounce values versus measuring cups, which oftentimes, depending on the person who's measuring or reading, can give you differing amounts of ingredients. So let's get started. We are going to start with scoops with the dry measuring cup. Before I measure my flour, I need to turn my scale on. So I'm going to turn it on. It says 0 grams right now. I'm going to be putting the flour into a bowl, but when I put the bowl on the scale, it now says 185 grams. So I need to zero that again so that it only adds the weight of the flour, not anything else, not the weight of the bowl in the measurement. Okay, so our first method is scooped with the dry measuring cup. So I take the cup, and now I'm going to level it off with my knife. Okay. 148. 48? Yeah, 148 grams. So one thing I forgot to mention was our whole goal of the weight. 1 cup of flour should weigh 120 grams. 120. That is the defined weight, or the defined mass of a cup of flour. So the actual gram mass of 1 cup of flour is 120 grams. But when I scooped with my dry measuring cup, it turned out to be 148 grams, which was way, way, way more. So you see how that is not an acceptable way to measure flour, because you would end up with a lot more flour. And the reason for that is because flour should be very light. When you use the scoop through the flour, it compacts the flour granules along the way and causes more of them to be in the measuring cup than what should actually occur. So that is why we do not scoop with the dry measuring cup. But this is what your worksheet should look like thus far. I'm going to spend less time on the next steps, but I'll give you a hint. Every single one of these in this column is going to read 120 grams because that's how much an actual cup of flour should weigh. Okay, let's keep going. The next one is spooned and shaken. I often see people measuring this way, and I think it just comes from people wanting everything to look neat right on the top. So they take a spoonful of flour, and then in between the spoonfuls, they shake it. Then I'll level. $145 grams. This one is called spooned and flattened. Basically what they do is they take the spoon, they spoon into the measuring cup, and then they flatten, pressing the flour down. By this point, I don't think I need to explain to you why this method is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. Okay, let's see. 151, not good. 151 grams. That's 30 grams over what it should be. Okay, the next one is the way I'm going to have you measure your flour. It is spooned and leveled. Here's what it looks like. You take your spoon and you lightly drop the flour into your measuring cup. Hold your measuring cup steady till it's heaping. Then you take the flat side of your knife, backward, forward, and you've got your cup of flour. Let's see if this is close to 120. $130. 130. We still have 10 extra grams in here, but it's not as much as the 30 extra grams that was happening when we were using the wrong strategy. So for this class, if you spoon and level with a knife, I'm totally cool with this. Let's do spooned and sifted and leveled. Very exact. You could do this method. And this is, you take your sifter, you tappa on the side, and you really aerate this flour. Then you pour the sifted flour, very airy, pour it into the measuring cup. Okay, let's see how this goes. 121. That is how you get the exact correct amount of flour in your measuring cup. Next, we're going to take a liquid measure. On the liquid measure, it says that this is a 1 cup measuring cup. So I'm going to take this. Level off my flour. Can't wait to show you what this is. 288. Not quite. And finally, trying my best with a liquid measure to spoon and try to level within a wet measuring cup. Okay? So I'm going to take my flour and just spoon it in. And then I'm going to try to get it to be at the level of the 1 cup measuring mark. This is what I have. Okay, so to me that looks like 1 cup. I have some air pockets in here, but it's aerated, so to me that looks like 1 cup. Let's see what it is. Okay, it's actually 124. So I did a pretty good job then, but that all was based on how airy my flour was and also how skilled I was at making the flour level within that measuring cup instead of just being able to sweep across it with my knife. Okay folks, so that's the end of our lab. You should have 7 values in the measured gram mass of 1 cup of flour column, and then please fill out the other things. You should know now to measure brown sugar packed, right, with your fist or with your palm. I can show you that really fast. I'm going to take a clean measuring cup, but I kind of take the brown sugar. Brown sugar is covered with molasses, which makes it sticky. And conveniently, we pack it when we're measuring it. So this is a quarter cup of brown sugar. We measure it packed. Non-dry items in dry measuring cups. You've heard a lot of examples of those so far in this class already, but I'll give you two. Sour cream would be one, Cool Whip would be another. Think about things that are wet, they're not dry, but they don't level themselves out. Then you would use a dry measuring cup for those because you need to have the freedom across the whole top of the measuring cup to level it out yourself. And finally, smaller measuring spoons may be used to spoon ingredients. I just mean that you don't need to spoon and level something as small as a 1/4 teaspoon. It's a 1/4 teaspoon, just reach in, level it, you'll be fine. So finally, how should we measure in this class? Well, as much as I would like to say you should sift and spoon and level all of your ingredients, I can star this. As much as I would like you to do this, I think your better bet is to do just spooning and leveling. It gave us within 10 grams of the proper amount of flour, so that's pretty much what we can use. So if I were in my kitchen and I did not have my scale, and I needed a cup of flour, I could just spoon and level and rest easy, knowing that I've got pretty much a cup of flour. And that's it. Have a great day, and I will see you